are important. However, churches are discussing intergenerational relationships and worship. They're trying to figure out how from the youngest to the oldest, how they can build those bonds stronger. And that's the reason why I also want to bring kids down. It's not just they're going to be forever upstairs, but I try to encourage to bring them down occasionally because I want them to experience downstairs, that it isn't scary. Most of the time they'll say it's boring. But I want them to see baptism and take communion as a whole body, and that it's not an extra snack time. But also to hear stories from the members of the church downstairs. Those are real stories of people who really mess up. And kids are like, adults, they're not perfect. I don't know if kids think exactly like that. But they see these stories, and then faith starts becoming alive to them. And so they become familiar with downstairs, so when the time comes that they go downstairs, it's not like, what planet am I on now? And I just want to say thank you for letting me just share my heart and the heaviness of it, and some of it just being God-inspired over this past year, pastor-inspired, book-inspired, and speaker-inspired. It's just a lot of different factors just leading up to this, and just trying to submit it to God, and like where God is leading me and where my passion is. And again, I want to summarize this by let's start the conversation about how children's ministry can partner with and impact your family in a real way. And that's really one of the main goals from this morning. However, I know that you guys would be very frustrated if I ended there, because you're like, what next? All right, the what next part. Well, Shelly and I have been discussing, and we'll continue discussing through the summer, about how to create a better bond between the preschool to kindergarten to Anchor Bay to, I'll be talking to Rick about into the youth group to prepare them. Because it says a lot about unity across the board, teaching the same truths and building upon them from a young age. And that's not me trying to take over spiritual responsibility from parents and whatnot, but that it becomes a useful tool of bringing your kid to church. Oh, you know about prayer in the preschool and kindergarten age, and then you don't do it so much in Anchor Bay, but you learn about the Bible, and then so it's like spotty, but we want to create something more unified and that builds up over time as they get older. I hope that was clear. I was kind of blabbling on. All right. But also, I want the children's ministry to provide a place for parents to excel, and like a toolbox that they can use, that they can bring home, or they can be here, that are useful tools in spiritually leading their children as well. And I'm asking you to be open to new ideas and creative ways to engage spiritually in your family and spiritually to lead your family. And also a willingness to engage in this conversation. There's no one way to spiritually lead a family, because no family is the same, which just makes things messier and a lot harder. But it's great at the same time. And also, I'd love to meet with each and every one of you over a meal or coffee to talk more about these ideas. I mean, because honestly, I'm a single guy. I have a lot of free time. I like food. And
dinner.
And just ask your kids, they would love if I came over to have a meal. And if they say no, they're lying. Okay. It's probably not a good thing to call your children liars. All right, anyway. But the first challenge I have for you, and I just want you to think about this over the past year, think about rhythms in your family, or maybe just this summer, rhythms, because a lot of these books, not these two books, Think Orange and Sticky Faith, they mention rhythm as an importance of learning. And not just like traditions like every Thanksgiving, these family members come over and do this, but like what rhythms do you have every month as a family? Or maybe every other month, or maybe you have a rhythm every week. Maybe every Sunday you do something as a family together. That was the rhythm in my family. We always ate roast afterwards and potatoes and carrots, and I loved it. And even though I got tired of it when I was a kid, I miss it so much now. And then we'd always hang out with my family, even though my friends were out doing other stuff. But my parents were like, this is our rhythm, this is our family time. That's just a personal example and whatnot. Also, I have a couple more slides about different rhythms that I've gathered from the books that I've read and people that I've heard. And I'm not saying that you should do this right now and your life will change forever. It's not that. These are just examples and whatnot that I just want to share from reading that maybe you can think about a little bit more of like, oh, we do that, or we don't do that, and that would never work in my family. But it's not saying that you should do all of these things right now. I really want to stress that this is not me wagging your finger, and I'm very cautious on sharing these, but I also want to because I like them. I don't know if that's a good enough reason. All right, we'll go to that first slide then. So there's some examples about creating rhythms in family and spiritually leading children. And the first one is praying with your kids each night before they go to bed and tucking them in. Maybe a short family devotion and prayer time. Family time of playing songs or singing songs together. Finding opportunities to share your faith journey with your kids, because they don't always ask, but they're pretty interested to know sometimes what it was like for when you were a kid and your different faith journey. And share hardships or mistakes you have made. They like to know that parents or other people aren't perfect. And then share some of your favorite scriptures or stories and why they're important to you. It helps create the Bible to become alive. The next slide is ask your child what adults in the church they look up to. And I should have changed that to what adults that they might look up to at school as well, or teachers or something. Because those people speak into those children's lives. And now you have someone to invite over on a free night who can invest in your child as well. Ask questions to motivate your kids to think about what they're watching or listening to. Do activities together, not always sports. Or get your serve on together in church, in community, and beyond. Serving together, even though it might be rough with some kids and whatnot, there's an awesome opportunity to just, that you're doing it for a good cause and whatnot. Alrighty, and that's pretty much the sum of all my thoughts and kind of the what next. And there's more, there's a little bit more of the development on the what next. I'm talking to a person about teaching a spiritual parenting class. I won't teach it, but having someone do it during the 9 o'clock hour to provide a real step, not just Shelly and I are trying to create a more unified children's ministry, but that there's a class for parents to engage in the conversation more together and whatnot. And I don't know when that will be, so please don't ask me. But there is something that is being set into motion. So now I'd like to open up the floor for questions, or you can tell me how it is, or you can just go get coffee and donuts and I can walk. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Any questions or comments?
Well, I just think you do a really great job, and Tay has really come alive since you've come, so I appreciate that. She's really like into everything.
Thanks.
Are you at a spot where you can tell us some tangible ways that we can do the orange thing, that families, and so how does the church provide support for us, and how do we provide support for you, I guess maybe is the question. Do you have some tangible thoughts on it?
Ooh, that's a very good question. A lot of it right now is evaluating what I have in place in children's ministry, or just not necessarily what I have in place, but what is in place, and different things to be more unified and change. And then there'll be more of an invitation of parents to include in that. But at the same time, conversations of like different internships and at the churches that I've interned at and whatnot, and some here, parents seem hesitant to help in children's ministry, or some who are all in. And this isn't me wagging the finger, but sometimes I view children's ministry and how structured it is, because for kids everything has to be structured. Otherwise they take that freedom and they run with it. But some parents get nervous about leading kids and whatnot, and I see sometimes that possibly the sheets that are printed out and that the lesson time, they're not necessarily teaching the lesson, but the group time afterwards can start cultivating parents to be more comfortable and having spiritual talks with their children. That's happened for some parents. That doesn't happen for all parents. I know some parents, they're like, I was super nervous about children's ministry, and I was like, I thought I was going to mess up these kids for life. But once that they got involved and they didn't, I mean, they followed the sheet, or they kind of like, I mean, they did that at first, but then they became more comfortable. And so it kind of like, oh, this is easy, not like that, but they became more comfortable in it. And so it kind of broke down that walls differently. But also for me, I know I need to invest the 40 hours, not just in the kids and try to do that, but how I need to come out and be more proactive in talking to parents and coming alongside them. Not be like, so how are you spiritually leading your family? But more of just building those relationships and coming alongside them as well. Does that answer it? Kind of? Okay, I don't know. Those were the first things that popped in my head. Awesome. Well, this didn't happen last time, so I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to hold you guys here longer and say, speak for the next 20 minutes or until the 10 o'clock hour, but give you free reign to go out and about. I don't know how to do that though. You're released? I don't.
Thank you for doing
Yeah.
this, because it just opens our eyes a little more to what goes on.
Yeah. This is just a speck in the conversation, I think. This is just seriously a spark that ignites, and it's just starting the conversation. Because at the same time, I'm not going to try and teach you these books and whatnot. Nor am I going to be like, you need to read these and now you'll get it. But more about, these are the things. I mean, I can pull out, You Lost Me, I Love Jesus but Not the Church. I mean, there's so many different books about like, we're losing generations of people, and something needs to change. And basically, in reading the books, these are the two that provide some real life examples. But I also think it's not like over the top, like you're crazy and whatnot. But they also provide resources to develop and whatnot. And so that's just me trying to share this line of thought. Line of thought goes up, right? Or maybe you thought it went down. Anyways, and just starting that conversation and whatnot. And also to develop it further. And so Shelly and I, after school starts, we'll probably have we will have a parent meeting and expose more of the Think Orange or the Sticky Faith, and how her and I have talked about how to create that unified, and how parents can come in and what tools we can try to provide. And some of you might be like, this is useless, and we want to be open to that conversation. Well, how can it be more relevant and not useless? Because I definitely don't want to be relevant. I want to help partner with parents and build a spiritual foundation in children's lives that captures their heart, not just their attention and whatnot.
Hey Jared, what's going on in Emmaus tonight?
Oh. So Emmaus is tonight, and for you that might be like, what's that? There's a Sunday night service, starts at 6, and it goes to 7:30ish. Adam Lyon, youth sponsor, and me, we're kind of teaching some of this orange and a lesson about families and whatnot. And we're going to be looking at Deuteronomy 6 and talking more about families and churches uniting. And there's going to be a challenge at the end of it. Not like a super hard challenge. We're not going to ask you to run a marathon or something. Just a simple task to help bring that to life. Is that what you want me to say? You put me on the spot, man.
I think tonight's a good reinforcement.
Okay. Yeah. And kids are included in the service as well, and we provide unique activities for them to do. I think they're going to be coloring a brain today and a heart, because love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind. Anyways. It's not as morbid as it sounds. Okay? It's a lot more innocent than what you're thinking. You can edit that one, please. Alrighty. Well, I'll say a quick prayer for us, and we'll head out. Is that all right? Any last comments? Okay. Lord, thank you for this time together and that these people sat through my